when I was a music journalist, I actually interviewed Puffy a couple of times. On one occasion, he let me snoop, literally let me snoop around his office before meeting him at his apartment. I'd gone to his office, which was in the textile district in Manhattan. And when I arrived, I was told, yeah, Puff knows you're coming. He said, go in, have a good look around his office, get a feel for who he is. And it's like, well, that's interesting. So I went in. They may well have had cameras trained on me, watching me or whatever. But his office was really interesting because, first of all, when you walk into Bad Boy, it was full of all these expressions that he had graffitied on the wall. Very proactive man, very dynamic. And one of the first expressions I read when I got out of this small little lift to the Bad Boy office was, don't be afraid to close your eyes and dream and then open your eyes and see. And it was like, it was just full of expressions all down the walls of Puffy's office. Life is not a game, only the fittest and most aggressive survive. Sleeping is forbidden. A second cannot be wasted. Once seconds are lost, you lose, and losing is for losers. And it was just full of this. And you could see he was a very dynamic individual. And Jack, one of the things that I found quite interesting was just like the layout of the office in itself. It felt like you were walking onto a movie set. And then I was sent uptown to his home, which was a very nice apartment. And when I arrived, his wrist was bandaged up. And the rumors had been that he had attempted to cut his wrist, that everything had become too much for him following the death of Biggie, that the death threats were too much for him. And so his wrist was bandaged up. I asked him about it, and he said that he'd shattered it. He was holding a fine glass and it shattered and cut his wrist. And I'm not quite sure how that happens. I didn't believe him, and he knew I didn't believe him, but we got on quite well on several occasions. Like I say, I interviewed him at least twice, Andre Harrell, and I interviewed Biggie at least twice. So he was quite prickly about the gossip that was said about him. He was devastated about Biggie, but he was also aware that he had been accused of being in Biggie's death. This part is the most serious one for me, and that was the allegations to do with Usher, right? Now, Usher, there's a video online. It's been removed from many sources, but I think it's still available. And Puffy is clearly drunk and they're live streaming. And Puffy talks about waking up next to a 10-year-old Usher. This was at Puffy's Flavor Camp. Yes, Puff Daddy had one of those camps, just like Nickelodeon, just like Disney. He had his own camp where young people were sent to improve their craft. Usher was sent there as a young teen, but Puffy recalls waking up next to him, next to Usher, and he said Usher was 10. Puffy would have been 19 at the time, right? And Usher later said, when he was asked in an interview, he said, very curious things taking place and I didn't understand them. When he was asked if he would allow his own child to attend a Puffy Flavor Camp, he was emphatic. No, I would not.